your point of view, what are then the obstacles, the main obstacles to move away from animal testing in scientific procedures and testing?
Again, they are different in different spaces. In terms of testing, the main obstacles are often the guidelines from regulators, which can stipulate or tend to stipulate animal tests as being the official recommended tests against which companies have to provide data on their products. That is changing somewhat, and very recently the UK government affirmed that those guidelines are just guidelines and there isn't a requirement in medical safety testing to use animals. But again, this needs more work, because in the past, where companies have tried to push against the boundaries of those guidelines, they have sometimes then fallen foul of the regulators. So they will quite often take precautionary action and conduct an animal test so that they don't waste money and time getting a product to market by having it pushed back. So the issue of regulation, regulatory guidelines, and those stipulated tests is one area. Within research, rather than testing, the barriers are different, and they're often around academic culture, funding, and publications. So animal research is culturally often still considered to be the way in which certain research areas need to be conducted, and that is largely driven by history, unfortunately. So there's a step change that needs to be made there, and again, it is moving slowly, but it's a big shift.
So the vision is clear, it's underpinned with concrete goals. There is a set of actions that can just be executed towards reaching the goals, reaching the mission. So what date shall we then put on our calendars when animal testing will be fully obsolete?
That's a $64 million question, Dennis. I wish I could say. I think that we are looking in the 30 to 50 year bracket, personally. Unfortunately, I would like it to be sooner, and certainly in a number of areas it can be sooner. There's a huge variation. So for example, the safety testing of chemicals, for example, could change next year, could move away from the use of animals. And there are other areas that are very close to that tipping point. There are areas that are more difficult, where medical research in particular would need to take stock and find different ways that do not yet exist to answer questions, and also potentially to decide whether those questions actually are important to answer for society. So those are the areas that will take longer. So my estimate of the timescale, I think it is for complete ending of everything, which I do believe is possible, but I do think it will take a long time. But there is an awful lot we can do sooner, and it's a little bit like the snowball rolling down the hill. The more areas move away from the use of animals, the greater, or more exponentially, the evidence base grows about what is possible. Funding then follows and increases, so we may well get an accelerative effect that brings that forward, which would be just lovely.
Accelerating the pace of change
exactly
is the imperative these days. What do you think is the role of cell culture methods in replacing animal testing, and how important is reproducibility of those models? As a manufacturer of enabling technology for cell culture-based products, what would you recommend us to do to accelerate the transition from in vivo to in vitro? What can our viewers do to support FRAME?